How to properly deal with stress. 5 useful recipes. And why you shouldn't force yourself to diet. Why do hands reach for the refrigerator in any incomprehensible situation? Why do we crave food when we're stressed? What consequences will this behavior have? And is there anything that can be fixed? We had a lot of questions about stress eating, and a nutritionist and a clinical psychologist sorted everything out. Why do we eat stress? Experts distinguish 2 types of hunger, physiological and emotional. In the first case, we eat for the sake of basic survival. In the second, when you seem to be full, but inside you feel some kind of discomfort. It arises due to emotions. It could be sadness, fear, anger, guilt, says a clinical psychologist. When there are no emotions of joy, pleasure, admiration, pleasant excitement in contrast to them, a person wants to cope with it because he wants to return to a state of pleasure and comfort. And then the fastest way is to eat something. There is plenty of food now. It's varied. And the picture is beautiful, and it looks appetizing, and the smells. We want not just a healthy soup or puree with a cutlet, but the same bright flavor manifestations. Interestingly, in 2015, scientists at Maastricht University conducted a study, published in the journal Genes and Nutrition, that showed that sweets eaten in stressful situations are even beneficial for some people. It helps you avoid overeating on various fatty treats. But this doesn't work for everyone. In any case, you should not overindulge in sweets. Is stress eating dangerous? In general, there is nothing wrong with stress eating. But just until it becomes a habit. If you experience long-term chronic stress and begin to compensate for it with food, this will certainly lead to excess weight, changes in eating behavior, and in the future will also adversely affect your appearance and health. Someone has a very nervous job. This is a common pattern. People come home in the evening and eat too much. This is a way of dealing with stress, says nutritionist Irina Borodina. Of course, in this way, with an incorrect attitude towards food, overeating, people can compensate for some kind of dissatisfaction and stress. If it takes long-term forms, it is dangerous, it is a problem. Sometimes it drags on for several years. In this case, the person will not be able to get out of this state on his own. He will develop a change in eating behavior, and here consultations not only with nutritionists, but also with psychotherapists are needed. We deal with momentary stress quickly, and then everything becomes fine again. But it is precisely chronic stress. This is, for example, the last year, the pandemic, isolation. Many have been under stress for a very long time. This is tension. This is fear, anxiety, contraction of the body, and it does not bring us any pleasure. But it's not just situations like this. The coronavirus does not depend on us. It happens that a person is simply dissatisfied with his job. Where will I go? Who will need me? I don't like relationships with family and friends. I don't like my appearance, low self-esteem, dissatisfaction. When a person has no hobby, no friends, or communication fails, emptiness appears. It becomes sad, the situation needs to be corrected, the person starts eating. How to eat in stressful situations. There is no unique recipe that is equally useful and correct for everyone. Simply because each person is individual, each has their own preferences and characteristics. But the main advice from nutritionists: nutrition should be nutritious, even when you are stressed. And here we will again talk about our favorite proper food plate, which contains proteins, fats, and complex carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables in large quantities. If, under stress, a person pulls himself together and starts eating on such a food plate, although eating this is basically necessary every day, the stressful state should go away much easier. But again, we must understand what kind of stress we are talking about. If it is stress related to work, exams, we fight it in one way: a balanced diet will help. But if stress is associated with deeper events in life, health problems, loss of a loved one, then first of all we will need a consultation with a psychotherapist before we begin to solve anything. Here we need to pay more attention to awareness. In general, to begin with, understand, what's wrong? How do I live? Why has food become the only way to get pleasure? Giving yourself answers to these questions is boring and sad, but you can do something about it. Expand the range of pleasures. This will, of course, require some painful moments. When we carry out such an audit in our lives, it becomes sad. But you need to do this, because life is beautiful, but fleeting. Should you go on a diet during stress? In no case. Any diet will only result in unnecessary stress for the body. Restrictions will lead to breakdowns, a vicious circle will begin to form, and you will end up with a fully formed eating disorder. This situation often happens. During times of stress, a person tries to go on a diet, nothing works out for him, he has breakdowns, he begins to punish himself, arranges fasting days for himself, and something else, the situation only gets worse. First, the person needs help. It doesn't matter whose, a specialist or a friend. A person must understand that he needs to cope with this situation. Instead of limiting yourself, it is better to come up with some easy rules that you will gradually introduce into your life so that weight loss is slow but comfortable. For example, you can play sports at least once a week, give up fatty dinners and sugary drinks. You don't have to do everything at once. We went to the gym for a month, and the next month we added a healthy eating habit. What if stress caught you while on a diet? In this case, allow yourself what you want. Do you want some chocolate? Eat some. Not a bar at a time, but a couple of strips with tea or coffee. The same rule applies to all other products. Nothing terrible will happen. But if you begin to suppress this desire within yourself, it will lead to a breakdown. Can you help yourself with vitamins so that stressful situations do not arise? Nutritionists recommend consuming B vitamins, vitamins C, E, and necessarily magnesium, zinc, microelements, proteins, fats and carbohydrates. All these components are needed for nervous activity. That is why the food plate we are talking about is ideally balanced, including for combating stress. You get proteins, fats and carbohydrates that are recommended by the world community.